Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Peteman Reviews. Today we have the Generation 1 Transformer Perceptor. This is the commemorative edition, which is identical to the original, except in terms of the springs mounted in the guns. Now with the originals the springs were quite strong. In the remake the springs don't even exist. Normally they're weakened, but here they don't exist at all. So when you put the missile in, it will stay in like that, but when you tip it, because there is absolutely nothing to hold it in place, it just falls out. Which kind of makes these absolutely pointless. So that kind of looks a bit like a gun by itself. So we will try to put the missile in, but it has to be pointed upwards or it falls out. Bit of a shame. Don't know why they did that, but I guess budgetary reasons. But the actual toy Perceptor itself is the same. Obviously, Perceptor is a microscope. It does work. It has a very, very low level of magnification. I don't know if you'll be able to see through the camera, but let's find out. So it's a bit tricky to be able to see anything through it because it's a particularly poor level of magnifying. But it does actually work up to a very, very slight point. And the idea is you have patterns effectively is a petri dish there. You look through the magnifying glass, and that's basically it. It is a microscope. Now, Perceptor comes from the micro change range prior to Transformers, which was a scale transformation from a robot into a kind of everyday item. So, for example, Soundwave comes with that range as well, so he transforms to a scale Walkman, and even all his cassettes transform into scale cassettes. So, it works very well for the robot, and for that matter for the toy, but the scales are out with the other Transformers toys. You see how large Soundwave was, and Perceptor as well is quite a large toy for the time. Perceptor is surprisingly a triple changer in that he does have a tank mode for this as well. It's not used very often, but it does appear in both the cartoon and the comics once or twice. I say he was never acknowledged as being a triple changer, even though he is. Quite a simple triple change mode. So basically what we do here is you've got some little, these wheels pop out like that, again like that too. Rotate the legs up, the whole thing then flips around like this, so now you've got the tracks down again. And that is it. It's a very, very simple mode. So now what was the Petri dish is now like a viewfinder or a Canon backblast kind of thing, and this now moves up and down to produce the cannon. So it's not really a very well known mode, but as I say, it was used in both the comics and the TV series just maybe once or twice, so it's worth acknowledging its presence. Okay, so back to robot mode then. So what were the track legs are actually Perceptor's legs. So you rotate them back around here, rotate them back that way. These flip up here to produce the feet, and the whole thing will then rotate down like that. So you just rotate them up and down. It's quite a sensible transformation for that. Now arms, this flips up like that, flips like that. You just need to flip these up if they're not already. And okay, it just needs to flip out all the way. It's a little bit tight, and some bits need to work it so that basically you can rotate the arms here and they clear the chest. Sometimes it's easier to put on than others, but it's basically just a constant rotating. This will then rotate up like so. Now I've seen this on either side, either on his left or his right. Doesn't really matter, to be honest, as long as it's one of them so it's out of the way. This goes up here. It does have a little hook, but it doesn't do anything. And then the arms. So the arms have little hooks here. When it was in tank mode, I should have taken these off because these are the focusing things. It doesn't matter. It's not certainly the end of the world, but they shouldn't actually be on for those. You can see here's a little one here, and that makes the arm come out. Finally, for the head, there's a little wheel, surprisingly here. You wheel it up, and the head pops up. Okay, there we are. That is Perceptor in robot mode. Now in terms of moving, before we add in the weapons, so the legs do obviously go up like that. He does have the splits. and because of the weirdness of the rotation, you can actually, thinking about it, I should have rotated those out this way so that you've got the shiny bit forward. It gives him knees. So he can actually walk, or at least give the appearance of walking. One of the few Wave 1, or this is a Wave 2, but still one of the few ones to do that. Again, the arms, okay, they don't have a great deal of motion, but they do have up and down, and he does have an elbow as well. Not a very stiff elbow joint, but it's still an elbow joint. More greater range of motion than others. He can't move his arm outwards, but he does have some up and down movement. And the head doesn't move; it just moves up and down kind of like a turtle. In terms of Perceptor's face, the toy is very different to the mould used in both cartoon and comic. It was kind of acknowledged a little bit in the recent IDW comics, particularly Regeneration 1. However, the face you see on the toy is the only instance of that face being used. It's always different. Usually all the others he has a mouth rather than a faceplate. But it's not followed through. So the mould you see for the head on here is unique to the toy. In terms of robot mode, he's pretty good. He's pretty stable. We will give him his weapons. So remember what I said about the missile launcher. Because of the fact that happens, we are going to have to move it so he's holding uprights. Because otherwise that will just fall out. It is a bit of a shame that was built like that. Utterly pointless as well, considering all the others do have reduced springs, but never mind. He also comes with another gun as well, so if you get fed up with the missile launcher, and we will, we can always get rid of it. Which means that actually Perceptor's a pretty tooled up bot here. He's got a gun, a missile launcher, and the light blast that can come out of the microscope cannon here. So he's actually got 3 weapons. For a scientist, he's pretty deadly. So in terms of height, well, he's not as tall as Shockwave, who came out before him. Not that much before him, but still, it was an earlier Wave 1 as opposed to Perceptor being Wave 2. But he's on the similar sort of scale to Shockwave, whereas we compare him to his contemporary, Jazz, who again was Wave 1. Jazz just doesn't scale to him. Again, for both those other two, Shockwave and Perceptor, they are not the same range originally as Jazz. One is Microman, one is Micro Change, one is Microman. I'm not sure what Shockwave was. He might well have been Micro Change, or it might have been nothing to do with it. I have a feeling Shockwave was nothing to do with it at all. It was just a cool bot that they bought, and who can argue with that? But he's not the same range, I'm pretty sure. Regardless, if we take Shockwave away, Jazz does not really scale with Perceptor, and for that matter, neither does Trailbreaker, the Combiner Wars variant. Though it has to be said, Trailbreaker is a much better scale with Perceptor than otherwise. So, yeah, he's a cool guy. So a triple changer, not really ever used the triple changer modes, but he is still a triple changer. He's got a lovely use of chrome on here, on all the wheels and on the petri dish, which is the chest plate in robot mode. Lovely use of chrome on there. Colour scheme is great. He's got good articulation, particularly the legs. With all the joints that they use and the way they rotate, it makes for an excellent level of articulation too. It's a pretty stable Transformer. Robot mode is good, so is the toy mode, though it should be said Microscope's a little bit odd choice. I know obviously it's from a range of everyday items and scientific items, but Microscope is still a slightly odd choice. That said, it does mean that he's one of the relatively few G1 ranges which is both good toy and robot mode without compromises in either. He's a bit bigger than most of the others, which I think is how they've been able to do that, of course. Worth getting hold of? Yes, he is. This is the commemorative release, which is a little bit easier to get hold of than the original release. That said, it's still not particularly common, but worth picking up. The main difference, as I say, is the lack of a spring in the missile launcher. So if you want to get one which can fire a missile launcher, you're going to have to shell out the big bucks for the original release. Personally, I'd rather shell out the big bucks for the... Well, I'd rather not shell out big bucks at all. Commemorative release is cheaper than the original, but still are both uncommon. Worth getting hold of. In terms of other versions of Perceptor that are out there, I don't think there are very many actually. He's not a toy I think that actually had that many releases. If we check on Wikipedia, on Transformers Wiki, I think there's only 1 or 2 other releases. Notably, the deluxe version where he transforms into a car, which is a bit unusual, but the robot mode is good. Classics version, which is just not a great toy at all. United, which is another version of the car. And that's it. He hasn't had many. He's had a few re-releases of the original toy, such as the Platinum edition and that, but not that many releases at all. He either transforms, and transforming him into a car, I don't quite feel right. I know he's got his tank mode here, but Perceptor fundamentally has always been a scientist. I know they've reworked his character a little bit to make him a scientist come sharpshooter, but he's still a scientist, and the microscope kind of feels right. I would go with a tank at a point, as long as the tank can also double up as a microscope. So you can use, well, as he is here, he's got the barrel here, which could be used in some form of sciencey way. Regardless, I'm digressing. The actual toy itself is a good toy. It's good in both modes. It's good in terms of articulation. It's good in terms of posability. It's a shame about the missile, but it's very minor in the grand scheme of things. If we put it down, if we take it off him, you'd never know there was a problem with it. Definitely one to get hold of. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave any comments below, click on the link and subscribe for some more videos. Thank you. Goodbye.